still trying to get this backlighting in my office kind of destroys.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone with my friend David Maria. Hi, David. How are you?
Hi, Kathy. I'm wonderful. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
So, and the way you can remember his name is you can sing songs, Ave Maria. That's what we were just talking about. It's an easy name to remember. So David has been on Conscious Business Zone one other time with me, and I just love his energy, his capacity to help others clear their obstacles to holding more light is remarkable. The first time I saw him, I couldn't stop crying just hearing his voice. So I don't want to talk too much. I want you to talk as much as you want. David, yeah.
I was going to say I didn't know that. I'm pleased to hear
it. Yeah. Well, I have been asking to hold more light, to release all of my obstacles to holding more light, because that's what I know I'm supposed to do. And so then when I heard you on an interview with Sanine, I recognized that I should work with you. So in full disclosure, I am working with David. I've taken several of his meditations, and I'm going to be taking his course. So, but David, tell us, for the people that haven't met you before, tell us about your journey from being fairly normal.
I've never been normal, Kathy.
Well, you basically,
I understand what you mean.
What I'd love to do is have people experience your resonance for your voice and hopefully get the same experience I had, where they feel an opening from it.
So I've always been somewhat. I've always somewhat remembered who I am. Like most of us, it gets dimmed by life experiences. I had a major awakening, series of major awakening experiences in 2011 and 2012, and then but I was still on my journey. And in 2018, I began to be obsessed with Africa. I was studying about Africa, was looking at Africa, looking at its history, et cetera, et cetera. And in the beginning of December, I started having dreams where African kings came to me in the dream state and invited me to come to Africa, along with several others. And we ended up going through a phenomenal series of just, the only way you can describe them is miracles, because it was almost last minute, and I didn't have the funds to be able to buy a last minute ticket to Kenya, which at that time was $2,300. And a friend of mine, David Hall, and his wife called me and said, we have the message, you have to be there, so we want to buy you a plane ticket. And that was just one of multiple things that happened, that just before you even knew that there was some kind of an obstacle in front of you, that obstacle was already cleared.
Right.
And everything was preceded by maybe a dozen really lucid and what turned out to be prophetic dreams about going to Africa. That every single dream that happened came true. It may not have looked the way that it did in the dream, because we all know what the dreamscape can look like. It can be pretty fantastical, but nonetheless, the essence of that did happen. And we eventually determined that we were going to participate in the annual prayer vigil at Mount Kenya, which circumambulates around the mountain counterclockwise. And that's an all-day affair. It's a 450-kilometer drive on very windy, twisty, up and down, narrow roads. So it takes all day to be able to do this. And we misjudged where it was going to begin. We thought it was going to begin on the northwest side of the mountain. It actually turned out that it was going to start on the southeast side. So we were a good 2 hours away from where it was beginning, and we were told they were going to start at 9 o'clock. That turned out to be incorrect. They were going to start at 8. So we were late. And the entire time, quote unquote, we were late. The entire time that we're driving, we're getting phone calls from them going, "Where are you? How come you're not here?" And, we explained everything. And at one point they called us and we said, "Look, this is an all-day affair. Just go ahead and start without us. We'll catch up." And they're going, "No, you don't understand. You have to be here." And we don't have a clue what they're talking about. None whatsoever. In hindsight, or at least in terms of what I know now, the seer that was doing the invocation was getting clear messages. You have to wait, because they knew that we were coming. I didn't know that they knew we were coming, but they knew we were coming. And we get there, we arrive there, and this is before COVID, so there's no restrictions at that particular point. There's around maybe 800 to 1,000 people, something like that. Everybody there is African. There's not a single white person there. It turns out there's not been a white person come there before, ever. So we were the first, and I think when we got out of the car, I made a comment like, "Oh, this is going to be really fun." So we walked across the road as if we were coming around to just blend in with the back of the crowd, because there's a lot of people there. And no, the organizers send some people up. They come and get us, and they bring us up front, turn us around, and show us to the crowd. It was both really embarrassing and also an honor. And then we were introduced to everybody, to all of the organizers. And to be honest, if I walked up to them today, I might not recognize them. There was too many of them, too many names, too fast. But then we met the seer, or the shaman, that was there to do the invocation. And when I looked in his eyes, he was the man from my dreams.
Yeah.
And I was very calm on the outside, but on the inside, I'm just shattered. I've totally fallen apart. And we talked for a little bit. He kind of jokingly said that he had dreamt of me, and I said I had dreamt of him. And obviously, there's a large crowd of people here that are waiting for this invocation in order for this. This prayer vigil has been going on around Mount Kenya for tens of thousands of years. It was shut down when the British invaded and colonized Kenya. And so it was illegal until 2008, but it took a long time to be able to get it moving again to where people started attending. And so he basically said, I need to do this. There's a lot of people here that are waiting, but I'll give you and your friends a blessing afterwards. And so it was almost humorous, because this is this particular event is a big deal in Kenya. There were 4 television crews there to be able to film it, which was part of the anxiety of where are you, because the crews are anxious to get going, et cetera, et cetera. And so if you remember back to what I said, I was very calm on the outside, but I was just shattered on the inside. So when Samuel Kamitha, the seer, when he was done with the invocation, then all of these news crews at once came and stuck these microphones in my face going, "Why are you here in Africa?" And apparently in that moment, I had the gift of tongues, which meant that I had 14 tongues. They were all speaking at the same time in different languages, because what came out of my mouth was just gibberish.
Oh.
And very wisely, very wisely, they did not include any footage of me in the news broadcast that day. And it wasn't that I was speaking light or anything else. I had been shattered. I just literally fell apart. And then afterwards, he gave all of us a blessing. And I didn't know this at the time, but I know it now because he's told me in subsequent years that when he came to me, instead of giving him a blessing, he heard that inner voice say, "No, give him everything." And it was like being struck by lightning 5 or 6 times in the course of just 10 or 15 seconds, just jolt after jolt after jolt. And so for the next 6.5 hours, we ended up driving around Mount Kenya, kind of like bobbleheads that stick in the back of your car. Just it was almost humorous and funny to be able to watch. Many other experiences happened while we were there. I spent time with him in his house and sharing food. He told me a lot about who I was and what my mission was and what I was here to do, et cetera, et cetera. And I returned while I was still in Kenya. That's when the Eden template came. It came as the way most transmissions come. It comes just instantly. It only takes a fraction of a trillionth of a millisecond, and it's present. But then you get to unpack it.
Okay, so I want to ask you, because if people haven't heard you before, they might not understand why, where this energy came from. You do have some insight into the origin of the gift that you were given. Could you talk about that?
We are all part of the universe and the multiverse, and every single aspect of all of creation is intimately and directly connected to source or spirit or the creator or God, whatever word you want to use. The word, it doesn't matter what word you use, it's merely a pointer to a consciousness that cannot have words put to it. It's ineffable. It can't be done, and that's the origination of this template.
Well, what I was referring to was the Pleiades, how the energy from Atlantis was put into the sky and appeared like a star.
There's no specific isolated constellation that you can point to that says this is the origin of this particular energy of the transmission.
Oh, okay.
It's much bigger than that.
Oh, okay.
That would be taking something that is vast and incomprehensible and condensing it down into a little small pearl that you can then begin to describe.
Okay. And how long ago was this?
2018.
Okay.
So after receiving the template and it unpacking, and then once that particular night, then I went through the experience of that I now share with people. I'm hesitant to say that I teach it because it's not really teaching; it's just sharing. And then at that point, it changed me completely, to such a degree that when I returned to the States, I spent the next 3 months of January, February, and March just sitting in my house, just staring out the window. I didn't work. I didn't really talk to people. My next door neighbor thought that I had had a psychotic break because I was not the same person, not at all, not even close. And yes, I did have a psychotic break, but only in the most wonderful sense that you can imagine. Because holding on to the definition of who we think we are through our ego self it's extremely limiting. It's extremely limiting.
So how does this gift that you've gotten, how does it interact with time? do you find that you can manage time in a different way? Because I think the ego is connected to time. At least that's my assumption.
My conceptual knowingness of time, and especially time and space, is that they're just GPS coordinates. And so I live in the moment, and I live as fully as, and bring as much of my awareness and consciousness to the moment as is possible. My life doesn't look like hardly anybody else's, but if you're used to living in the now moment, you understand. If you're used to living in your head and following your thoughts, that may be slightly difficult to be able to grasp.
Well, I want to let people know when I did the first meditation with you, I'll preface this. I've been working with amazing healers and teachers for 21 years. And so I'm always, I'm up to learn more and looking to keep growing. And I see this time right now that we're going through is a big pivotal time for humanity. It's an upgrade and an opportunity for the new human to experience life and to change how we're living. And so it was on a Saturday, I did a session, and I think there were like 20 of us on the call. And afterwards, all I could do was sit out on my deck in the sun. I couldn't do anything else. My hands had energy coming out like Reiki, which I do energy stuff, but this was quite palpable, very pleasant. It wasn't unpleasant in any way. It was beautifully calm and very loving energy that was clearing my system, and it was clearing my nervous system. That's actually the gift of, I think, of what I got. Then I re-listened to the recording of that meditation. It took me 2 weeks because I was afraid it was going to knock me out for 5 hours again. And it only knocked me out for an hour. But what I'm telling people, that if you're ready to go do the deep dive, this is an experience that is not, it's based totally in your heart, not in your head. So it's not like book learning. It's an experience of a heart opening, but it's a way to clear your field of, it might even be ancestral obstructions. Obscurations is what I call it, because it's shadow integration. Could you explain some more of what it is? I'm not doing a very good job. I am very sensitive, so I loved it. I can't wait to do more. That's all I can say.
So if you think about current brain science, like with neuroplasticity or neuro-linguistic programming, through neuro-linguistic programming, we understand that the brain cannot tell the difference between a real and an imagined experience. It's not possible. If you look at neuroplasticity, how it came into being was neurologists and brain surgeons studying people who had had extremely traumatic accidents, like car accidents or motorcycle accidents, whatever it might be, and they experienced a major brain injury, and they lost certain kinds of functioning, whether it was cognitive or physical. We all know stories of people that the doctors tell, "You'll never walk again," and they walk again. Or people that lose the ability to have speech and then they reclaim it. And it's because our neurology is very fluid. We are capable of creating new neural pathways to be able to handle whatever function that we need.
Right.
So the meditations in all of the classes that I share, the meditations correspond to neural pathways that already exist within us, whether they're totally dormant and we have no awareness of them, whether we're just beginning to remember who we are and we have some sensitivity, or whether we're very sensitive. It doesn't really matter. What it does is it begins to open those channels. So as you go through the meditations, not only does it open those channels, but it begins an overall process that starts consciously to align your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies. And as they begin to align, the size of them, the alignment becomes narrower and narrower and narrow, and it's almost contradictory. But the narrower that focus becomes, that is the attention of how you place it internally, the more energy flows through you.
That makes sense. It's discordant is the separation, and resonance would be the unification. But it wasn't painful. It was very pleasant. Whereas sometimes when you have samadhi, where you've been on a way high and then you come back down and you crash, I didn't experience any of that. I didn't experience like a caffeine high and then not. I didn't experience that. Is that because this is a permanent shift?
Once these neural pathways are open within you, they stay open. But like it one of the ways that I describe at least the initial activation is that it's like a crystalline seed, and like any seed, if it's going to thrive, it needs the nourishment that it needs. So if you think of the analogy of a seed that you put in the ground, it has to gestate, and every seed that you put in the ground needs a certain amount of darkness in order to gestate. That's unique to every single seed, and it's also unique to every single person. And I don't mean literal darkness or something strange, but it takes a period of private time, just being with yourself, in order for that seed to incubate properly. And then, just like a seed in the ground, the first thing it does is it pushes a root deep into the earth. And once it anchors itself with the earth, that's when it pushes its shoot up. It comes up above the ground. And then that would correspond to what everybody else can see. Because there's a lot of conversation about ascension, and that's not really what we're doing now. In the old ways, prior ways of doing things, when people self-realized spontaneously, they would drop their bodies and go back into non-physical as ascended masters. That's not what we're doing now. We're embodying ourselves into this vessel, this physical vessel that we have. So we're actually we elevate the frequency of the body, and then we bring in the higher frequency energies of our soul, and our soul comes to live in us. But in order for that to happen, all of the distortions, all of the traumas and everything else that we have incurred throughout the lifetimes that we've lived, those all have to come up and be felt and released. In other words, we have to do our own house cleaning. We have to do our own shadow work, and nobody else can do that for us. There are things that can happen that assist us, that are readily available, but nonetheless, each one of us has to do that homework. So to the degree that we nourish the seed that is planted within us, that's the degree that it sprouts and continues to grow. And I would like to stress that with the first meditation, that it is an opening to a direct reconnection to source. It brings in your original soul blueprint from the moment that your soul was first created, reconnects it to you, and then you have the opportunity to begin to soar with it.
It's so wonderful. I had a spiritually transformative experience 16 years ago that let me see who I really was, and but it see experience, but it left me wanting to know how to reconnect to that experience. It left me with a yearning. I think of it every day. I still see it every day. And this has been the closest I've gotten to getting back to that experience. And I've that's, if anyone's interested in reconnecting with their soul and using that congruency and that pure love state, this is a great path for you to be able to embody who you really are. And David, let's talk about the class a little bit so they understand. You can have experiences with David, but you also can be in a group, in a class. What I'm going to show the URL right now, the Freedom from the Known URL here, which is on David's website, which is the EdenTemplate.com/freedom from the known. And I'll put it in the description as well, so it'll be easier to see.
There's a direct link from the homepage, so
Okay.
Sometimes it's enough. And I would like to also share that this is not something that I give you. This is not something that I can give you. This is something that you already have.
Right.
Every person has this. All I do is share a template and a meditation that allows you to remember that this is who you already are. This is your birthright. We've just forgotten. On this fabulous journey that we call life, we have forgotten to a large degree who we really are.
So, but do you feel called at this time to help? I mean, was that part of the information you got in Kenya, that you were asked to embody? You were given it all for a purpose, for a divine purpose for now?
It's to share with others, and I do that regularly through individual classes and also through extensive courses like the one that we're getting ready to talk about, Freedom from the Known.
Okay.
So I also do one-on-one sessions, which primarily focus on releasing distortion or trauma. So if you remember back to one of the very first things that we talked about when I was talking about neuroplasticity and the body's or the brain's ability to recover from very traumatic events, recovering from trauma sounds like the entire world, sounds like almost every single person that we can imagine.
Right.
Everybody that I've encountered is experiencing some level of trauma.
Yes.
Whether it's debilitatingly serious, or whether it's just inside and people can't see it, or whether it's completely fractured off from that, like an event that is so traumatic that it gets fractured off and we no longer can feel it. So therefore we have no opportunity to even know it's there, let alone begin to work with it and work to heal it.
So you've used the word remembering a couple of times in this conversation, and I like that idea as well, that the game in play, and I consider this reality, this matrix, a game. So the game in play is come, forget it all, and then see how much you can remember. Do you agree with that?
We as souls, once we embark on the incarnational journey, We experience everything. We experience literally everything. The the highest highs, the deepest lows, the most horrific darkness that you can imagine. I mean, over the course of our incarnational streams, we've all been each other's mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles,
Yeah.
cousins. We've all done the most horrific things imaginable to each other and had the most horrific things imaginable done to us. And then we finish that journey and we begin coming home. We begin to return to the remembrance of who we really are.
Right.
And as part of that, any baggage that we've picked up along the way that we're still attempting to carry with us, well, it's time to let it go. There's no judgment around it.
Right.
Source, the Creator, God never judges anything that we have done. There is no judgment about it. If it needed forgiving, it was forgiven in the moment that it happened.
Right.
You've heard me say on more than one occasion, no matter how broken you think you are, you're not. You're not. The moment you begin to remember who you are, you understand this, not mentally, not intellectually. You understand it in every cell in your body.
So this work, though, the frequency of it seems to release those thought forms, and it seems as though it's multi-generational. That maybe you came in wanting to have this experience, so you picked these parents that had this experience, but once you do this work, does it clear the whole family timeline too?
As you do that work. So when we're born, one of the first things that happens is we imprint on the electrical fields of our parents, which with all of their idiosyncrasies, all of their sense of limitation, whatever it might be. And remember, that is a conscious choice that we make. We choose to go into through that.
Right.
My personal choice was to go into a horrific line, and those were lessons, number one, that I wanted to learn, and number two, it stops with me. It ends with me. It does not transmit out further. So not only do we imprint on the electrical fields of our parents, but because our parents imprinted on the electrical fields of their parents and their grandparents and great-grandparents, and pretty soon you're talking about this huge familial line.
Right.
You throw into it on top of it things that come in there that are cultural, that are national based or religious based, whatever it is. All of a sudden, you're already programmed.
Right.
And so, but that's not who we are.
Right.
Those are just layers. They're just layers that get stacked up on top of us. And you might call it the false self if you want to. It's just a word. They're just energetic layers that have become part of us. And as you begin the alignment process to align yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, those layers gradually come to the surface and they let go of. Or in some cases, we do specific meditations or exercises to help you release them, or we go deep into with a one-on-one session, you go deep into it.
Well, what I'm seeing.
And yes, to finish your question,
Oh, sorry.
you do this work. Once you clear something within yourself, it will clear it in your family line back for at least 14 generations.
Wow. Well, I recommended this class that we're talking about to one of my clients and friends, and he just can't say enough about it. And he has done a lot of work and has been very successful in his life. And at 81, 82, it's energized him like he's highly productive after doing this with you. So I'm really excited to see what happens after after I get to go through the system also, to see how much more productivity I get. I mean, that's just a practical aspect. When you can focus clearly, you can bring in things from you can land things into this reality really quickly. And so I see one of the benefits of doing this work is high precision focus. Would you agree with that?
I don't know about high precision focus, but as you do the work, I've not heard that expression before.
I made it up.
But, but as you do the work, as you gradually begin to pay less attention to believing the thoughts that you're experiencing, then one of the things that happens is that your ability to focus becomes very laser-like.
Exactly.
And when you need to focus and you need to work, then you have that ability. And when you need to be diffuse and dissolve, then you just let go and do that too.
Well, but I think what I was referring to is that your capacity to manifest is different because you're you're coherent. I really think that's what this test has been through this past year, is to see the chaos outside and see how you can be coherent inside. And that's why I'm excited about taking your class, is that I see that as a path of coherence.
I like that. I'm not a big fan of outward stuff.
Oh.
What you are experiencing in your life is a direct reflection of who you are inside.
Exactly.
So.
Well, what I guess I'm trying to explain to people, that they'll feel the call, their soul is yearning to reconnect with them at a higher speed than they're going, and they hear this and they go, okay, well, how do I explain what I'm doing to myself? So I was just adding benefits. That's what I was attempting to do. But I imagine anybody that feels a resonance to this will, just like I'm feeling you right now, I am definitely feeling your energy. If people experience that, they'll know that that there's something here for them that could really help them.
And I love your use of the word resonance. If you feel that resonance in your body, if you've been feeling it during this conversation, then that's, if you want a sign, then that's the sign.
Right, right. And when we look at this opportunity is a path to really who you are, and out of this illusion, this illusion that as you can see with the media and everything, it's just constant chaos. Chaos is the it's absolutely the opposite of what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is peaceful, loving expression of almost superpowers. That's the way I.
The energy that comes through is literally love. That's the core of what is here, and love dissolves everything.
Yes.
It dissolves all of the stuff that you think about who you thought you were or think you are, and it dissolves you into that unity.
And the opportunity to experience that at a level, this is true spiritual work. This is where your spirit is reconnected, your soul body fusion, if you want to call it that, where you get the opportunity to really embody a lot of your soul and experience the benefit of that. It's time. I think that's the evolution of our species. Do you agree with that?
I love the expression soul body fusion. I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Johnette Crowley, who is a grandmother and a channel, wrote a book called Soul Body Fusion. And her premise was that, and this was, I forget how long ago, I have the book downstairs. Her premise was that we aren't trying to ascend out of the body, we're trying to descend into the body, and that's where all the benefits are. And her path is more indigenous methods, whereas yours is your path is meditation and experiential.
I would agree that the meditations themselves that have been organized into quote unquote classes, they come from the inside. I don't share anything that hasn't emerged from within inside of me through guidance, and sometimes it takes. Sometimes I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. It might take me 6 months to realize that, oh, there's another class, and I understand what it is, or there's another offering. So, but I mean, I'm still human. I still can laugh at myself because what's that expression? If you can laugh at yourself, you'll never run out of things to laugh at. Yeah, well, that would be me.
Well, the thing is that I know that the audience is used to hearing people talk about their services, and in a lot of times they're charismatically in their ego, and you can see David is not in his ego. In fact, he before each class he taps in and sees what people really need. So he has a construct and a theme for the class, but that it's actually the gifts that are received are gifts that are in the moment, correct?
The way that I would express that is that when there is a group class, the group themselves, yes, there is a quote unquote a generic format for each one of the classes.
Mm-hmm.
Depending upon who's there, it's always fresh, it's always new, it's always different, because the group themselves pull through what they desire the most. What is it that each individual needs in this moment? What will be the most beneficial for them to be able to receive? And I'm always surprised by what comes out of my mouth. because it's always, if not unique, it's at least sometimes subtly different, but there are always nuances that are different every single time each one of the classes is shared, and that's based upon who is there.
I love that. I love the idea that that presence allows you to tap in and gift people what they need at the moment, rather than a script. Like if you probably haven't taken a lot of the classes that I have, but a lot of them it's very rigid. You do it the way the master says, and I'm talking about healing classes, and this is very different. This is very the capacity to be all that you can be is now available to you in this moment, if you so choose.
Everything is very fluid and very flexible, just like we are. Our nervous systems are very fluid. Our DNA is very fluid. Our DNA can change depending upon where we focus. So remember, science tells us this is an interactive universe.
Right. Right.
So if scientists study something, what they're studying changes because their attention is being put on it. It's different.
Right. The observer effect. Right. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So if you think about just about every week, science is discovering something new about the universe, like the cosmologists and the astrologers, then it's because they're putting their focus on it. So the universe is changing as a result of the attention that is being focused on.
Right. Right.
So at this level, when you think about it, it's almost humorous because it'll never be figured out. Because as soon as you figure it out, it changes.
Yeah.
Because the mind is incapable, the brain is incapable of truly grasping what this is.
Yeah. But the heart feels it.
You can be it.
Yeah.
You can be it, but you have to surrender everything in order to fully embody it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I've done that. Don't misunderstand me. I'm still a work in progress. There's still
Right. Or else you wouldn't be here.
not necessarily. There are uncooked seeds that are still working.
Yeah. So would you share some stories before we go to talk to about the class exactly? Some stories of I mentioned my friend that's been going through the class. I've been watching him. It's remarkable what's happening with him. Can you share some stories of what people have experienced?
So the freedom from the known is a 9-week transformational class. I did not realize this at the time. It was the word just came to me that to name the course this way. J. Krishnamurti, very famously wrote a book in the 40s called Freedom from the Known. That if you really want to know who you are, you have to go past what you know.
Exactly.
You have to let go of what you know. Much like Einstein said, that you cannot fix a problem with the same thing that you used to create the problem. If you're trying to use your brain to comprehend something, it's not at this level. It's not going to work. It's just not going to happen. So what this course is designed to is a series of activations and cleansings or releases or clearings, much kind of like, see if I can get my arm in here, kind of like a sine wave, where we activate and then we clear and then we activate and then we clear. So it's a journey through consciousness itself that ends up directly connecting us to source at an extremely deep level, and that's presented as a series of guided meditations, which again are always fluid, which again are changed every single time that it's happening, depending upon the people that are there. And it's also unique to each individual. So one person may have a phenomenally dramatic breakthrough and literally pop out the other end and go not recognize themselves for who they used to be. And others will, everybody moves at their own pace. We are all completely unique. We are unique fractals of source, if you will. And the journey that we are on, the path that we're on, is unique for each one of us. So one person may be ready and will just literally explode in terms of their movement into self-realization. Another person may take a little bit longer, but that's just the way that it's always been.
Yes. Well, what I'm trying to figure out how to explain is the opportunity to reconnect with source through your soul, because your soul is
Yes.
the connection, and the soul the way I'm psychic and intuitive, so I see a lot of times people's souls are like a balloon outside their body, on a string. They're not embodied at all. And,
Most people are not in their bodies. I
right,
would say in the high 90%. And remember, I was never in my body. I'm going on 76 now, and I finally, when I celebrated my birthday when I was 74, that was the first birthday I ever celebrated by actually being in the
oh,
body.
wow,
Never in the body. And the irony of me stressing and teaching and sharing with people, get in your body, is not lost on me.
right, right. Well, that's what I recognized right away. The way that the reason you came here was to have this physical experience and to embody as much of that. So could you share any stories of things that you've experienced with some of your students or your clients that people might be able to relate to?
It's across the board in terms of a broad spectrum. Probably universally, one of the most consistent things that happens for people is this renewed sense of this deep peace that can't be shook. That can't be shook, because you're literally. We came here to be ascended masters in the body.
Right.
And when you connect to that source of peace that is beyond anything that you know of, biblically that would be referred to as the peace that patheth understanding, because your brain cannot comprehend it, but you can be it.
Mhm.
So you can't have peace, because if you have something, it can be taken away or you can lose it, but you can become it. You can transform yourself to such a deep level. You can remember who you are to such a deep level that you are that peace. And you discover that really deep inner stillness inside yourself. And that's where you live from. That's where your attention is focused, is on that connection. And I mean, people experience wildly increases in their levels of abundance. And abundance is not just money. Abundance is across the board. Everything. It's joy. It's love. It's friendship. It's the happiness in terms of the life that you're leading and being able to do whatever it is that you want. It's beyond description how you can't put a limit on what abundance is. But people also experience dramatically increased financial abundance, because everything that you want, everything that you truly desire. There is that teaching that's out there that once you surrender wanting everything, then you can have it all. And that's another way of saying what Abraham and through Esther Hicks says, is that once you are no longer have any resistance to what you desire, when you're in alignment with it, it has to present. It has to.
Right.
There's no other option available. So basically, we're just aligning ourselves with who we really are. We're just remembering. There is a story that I've told in the past about race car drivers that drive on dirt tracks. And if it's rainy, then there's a lot of mud that is being kicked up by all the other cars. And they wear helmets with visors on them that have little pull-away strips on them. So when their visor gets dirty, they just reach up and pull one off, and now they have a clean film to look through again. And we're just pulling off layers and layers and layers and layers, and gradually remembering who we are.
That's beautiful. And what I love about this is how easy it is, and how powerful it is, and how quick I felt it. I mean, I can say, honestly, I've worked with so many beautiful beings, but this is quite powerful. The first meditation was substantial. I was substantially different afterwards. Substantially different.
So I'm going to ask you the same question that I ask every single person that comes to a course. And I very seldom get what I consider to be a satisfactory answer. And that is, having experienced that, how are you different? How are you changed? How is your life different?
I think I'm much more present. I
That's,
think if nothing else, I mean, I am fully present here with you.
yeah,
And I don't think I was capable of always being fully present with the people around me. And that's why I called it focus, but it's more than focus.
I agree. And that, trust me on this one, that sense of presence is only going to deepen.
Yes. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that. That's
And
how my superpowers.
I can also promise you this: there's no end to it. There is no upper end.
I know. See, I was able to see and experience who I really am 16 years ago, but didn't see a path to embodying more of my soul. I've been looking for 16 years. So that's, I mean, that's the highest recommendation I can give to anybody, that after having a spiritual, I had a white light experience where I saw this little body as an ant in a huge spotlight that connected to source, God, whatever you want to call it. And I saw myself as like a tributary off of this river, and then there were others, but at first it was just me and God. And for 16 years, I've been looking for ways to bring more of that light into this vehicle. I mean, that's the truth of it. So this is a huge opportunity for me, and I hope for our listeners that may be ready for their true essence to be available to them and to experience life is in a much more substantial way, and maybe even activate your superpowers. I think it will. Um,
I've never been concerned about superpowers. I've never been concerned with asking for them. In the East, they call them cities or just powers. And it for me, it is just allow them to be.
right, of course. And
You,
I'm making fun. I mean, I'm trying to add some levity here because people, no, because this is serious. This is a serious subject. If you feel disconnected with your soul, you're not having a very fun time here. You
no,
are. It's difficult.
no, it's called suffering.
Exactly. Exactly. And doesn't have to. It doesn't have to continue.
And all of those gifts that you came here with, that you might refer to as superpowers, they were spontaneously on their own. If you have those gifts, then you'll have those gifts.
Right. Right.
So recently, for maybe probably, I don't know, the past maybe 3 months, 4 months, I've been appearing to people all around the world, and I had no idea that this was happening. They would then contact me and say, tell me whatever it was that they experienced. Recently, when that happens, I've begun to know that a connection has been made somewhere between myself and another person, or between that person and me. I don't know what the difference is. I'm still just watching it, if you will, or just experiencing. I have no idea what it means.
Mm. Well, so do you think it's soul family? Do you believe in soul family after having all these experiences?
To date, some of the people have contacted me and told them that I came to them, told them that they're ready. And in that context, I was offering a course, and they signed up for the course because they knew that they had gotten a very clear message. That this is not advertising, ladies and gentlemen.
He's on an assignment even in his sleep.
I am not a salesperson. I am not
No,
selling.
I know I'm trying to help here.
I'm just saying that's what people are telling me or have been telling me.
Well, I know. I'm trying to explain my excitement of finding you and the experiences that I've had already, even though I've just done, level one. But I highly recommend David's work, and I'm looking forward to the next class, which starts July 10th. And do you want to explain one more time about the freedom from the known class, so possibly people that are ready will join us?
It is a 9-week deep dive into yourself. It is a deep dive to remembering who you are, and the dive is done through a series of meditations and cleansings and clearings. We do very detailed cleansings of the spinal column and all of the vertebra, and we do cleansings removing fear, pain, and lack. So if most people experience fear and pain on very personal, very deep levels, and they are literally not necessary. Fear is just an illusion, but it's something that we pick up by coming in here. We pick up largely through our familial lines. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not by any sense of the imagination saying that real fear, like when your life is threatened, is not real. That's not what I'm referring to. What I'm referring to is the kind of automatic debilitating fear that people go through of, well, what if this happens? Well, what if that happens? Well, it hasn't happened. So why are you obsessing yourself, being in fear about it? So we work distinctly on cleaning things that are limiting you, even if you don't believe anything or know of anything along the lines of spirituality. These are incredible things to be able to work with clearing, because everybody carries unnecessary fear. Everybody carries unnecessary pain. Everybody carries unnecessary sense of lack, that there's not going to be enough, that there isn't enough, that I'll never have enough, that I can't get enough, whatever it might be. Instead of just being in the flow where everything that you need appears in the moment when it's necessary, when you need it, it arrives.
Well, I want to suggest to anyone who's highly sensitive, empathic, intuitive, that this is the course that you've been looking for, that you didn't even know existed. This is the path to you being able to be fully present in the world in a lovely way. It's a freedom to be who you really are, opportunity. And so I want to invite all of you that are like me, that want to be present and want to make a difference in the world, to consider taking this class. And it's at the EdenTemplate.com, Freedom from the Known. So we'll put that link in the conversation, a part of this presentation. And please, if you have questions, I'm happy to explain more. And David is available. David, what's the best way for people to contact you?
By email. There's a contact form on the site. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has. I haven't put it together yet, but I'm feeling into having just like a Facebook Live with a conversation that people can ask questions. And just so that everybody knows, the early bird registration ends on July 1st.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll put that information in the comment in the information, because you guys, this is an opportunity that there's only one. Is this because it's 9 weeks? It's a big commitment for David. This is not something that you just listen to the recording. You can if you can't make the one class, but this is something that you'll want to be in group, and you'll want to experience it in as much as you can, because the gift is the gift of you. You get to experience who you really are.
And the moment that you say yes, there is a connection that gets made between my soul and your soul. My soul makes a commitment to you. And during the entire 9 weeks, which is every Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, approximately an hour and a half, but most classes go 2 hours. The more people that are present, the longer the classes go. But I'm always cognizant of people's time, because people from all around the world have been coming. So trying to get a time thing that works in Australia and also works in Europe and here never really works out to be a perfect thing. But there is, I am available to everybody. Is in addition to everything else, you also get a one-on-one session with me as part of the course. So I don't know what else. I don't know what else to say.
Oh, wow. Well, the thing that I want to say is that we're all finding each other now, and this is another place where I assume, and this is just my knowing, that there will be a lifelong loving connection with everyone who's in the class with you. This is an experience that will change your life, and is very affordable and very doable. 2 hours every week to be able to gift yourself who you really are. Can't beat it. Can't beat it. Thank you so much, David. We're going to need to sign off. So the best way to find you is you are on Facebook, so people can message you there. And the EdenTemplate.com is your website. And there are other opportunities to work with you, but if you're ready for the deep dive, we're really recommending this class right now, and come play with me. I'm definitely in for the one starting July 10th. I've already signed up, and I can't recommend this enough. I feel very blessed and honored to have found you, David. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm humbled. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so we're gonna go now. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kathy.
Sure.